fewer people are opting to eat fresh these days. The restaurant chain Subway continues to see declining sales.
With more than 42,000 restaurants in over 100 countries, Subway has the most locations of any fast food chain on the planet. And at first, that sounds like a sign of a thriving subgiant.
And still is today about Subway is really an open kitchen format. In many ways, they really pioneered that and the ability to customize your sandwich.
Subway's famous giant foot-long sandwiches are made right before your eyes, the way you want them.
Subway's closed thousands of stores in the last 3 years and saw a 25% fall in business from 2012 to 2017.
You might think Subway workers are walking out just because of low pay. But the truth is, many of them are quitting over something that hits closer to your lunch tray, the size of your sandwich. Corporate cut meat, cheese, and even sauce portions down to a whisper, then left staff to deal with customers asking why their $10 sub feels more like $5. That resentment builds fast. So what's driving employees to toss their aprons, even at the cost of a paycheck? Let's dig into the hidden reason behind the exodus. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor.
The brand redefined fast food with fresh ingredients that customers could see. Compared to other fast food chains at the time, it felt healthy. And it worked.
In the late 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s, everyone knew about Subway. I mean, they were everywhere. They're still everywhere.
By 1981, there were 200 locations across the U.S. And soon after, Subway went international.
The format is pretty simple. You buy a franchise, you get trained, they help you secure a location, they help with a grand opening, and you're open. You're open for business.
If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Let's start with the slice of turkey. You don't think much about it when you order, but for the person behind the counter, that thin cut of meat has become a daily flashpoint. Corporate rolled out strict rules that chipped away at portions, first the meat, then cheese, and even the drizzle of sauce. Prices stayed where they were or crept higher, so what customers noticed wasn't savings but vanishing value. That tension doesn't land in a boardroom, it lands across the sneeze guard with workers stuck in the middle. Now picture a $10 sandwich that looks oversized until it's opened. Bread and lettuce bulk up the frame, while the protein feels like an afterthought.
Not only were Subway franchises successful, they were, and still are, one of the cheapest chains to franchise. It costs between $116,000 and $263,000 to open a Subway franchise.
Their biggest successes for sure was the Jared Fogle story. Everyone remembers those ads where it's him in those huge pants where he's showing how he lost all of this weight. And that just made them so much money, and it really made people think about Subway.
Subway's success continued into the early 2000s. At a time when obesity was rising rapidly in America, Subway continued to market itself as a healthy alternative to fast food.
It was one of the biggest advertising wins that any chain's had in recent decades.
Customers see that gap instantly. They don't think about portion control policies or cost-cutting strategies, they think the workers shorted them. Every missing slice, every stingy squirt of mayo, turns into an argument. It isn't always yelling, but the constant pushback, "Can't you just add more?" grinds workers down shift after shift. The irony is that in most food businesses, shrinkflation happens behind the scenes. A bag of chips gets a little lighter, or a soda bottle holds a bit less, but you don't measure it with your eyes as someone assembles it. At Subway, the cutbacks are displayed in real time. Watching an employee carefully count out paper-thin slices feels like watching the value disappear piece by piece. It's not subtle. It's like paying for a stadium concert and realizing half the band never showed up. You still hear music, but it feels like a scam. And here's the kicker. Employees know the portion looks skimpy. They know it makes customers mad. But their training drills them to stick to exact counts. Go above the rulebook and you risk a warning, maybe losing the job. Follow the rulebook and you look like the stingy one. That leaves staff in a perfect bind. They're punished if they don't follow orders and punished again by the customer for following them too closely.
Behind the scenes, many of the reasons for Subway's success had turned on them. Starting in 2014, Subway sales began steadily dropping, and fast casual chains like Panera were offering seemingly fresher and healthier options. On top of that, fast food chains that had been around as long as Subway were coming up with healthy alternatives of their own.
The fallout is emotional more than anything. Think about being blamed all day for choices you didn't make. By mid-shift, a worker has already heard, "You're ripping me off," half a dozen times. Some customers film it for social media, adding public mockery to the stress. The emotional toll adds up fast. For someone earning close to minimum wage, standing there as the face of corporate greed feels like too much. When quitting becomes the only way to dodge that daily abuse, a lot of people take it. Part of what makes this so sharp is the visibility. If a frozen dinner comes with fewer chicken strips than it used to, you grumble at home and move on. At a sandwich counter, the cutback is acted out in front of you, and the worker's hands are literally putting it together under your gaze. Customers demand answers, but the person who made the policy is nowhere near the store. That disconnect leaves the frontline worker carrying resentment that was never theirs to carry. There's also an ongoing sense of dishonesty. Staff feel like accomplices in a scam they can't change. They can't say, "Yes, corporate cut it back to make more money," so they're forced to play the silent villain while trying to keep a smile on. That wears down morale. Even people who enter the job with a good attitude start to dread each shift when every sandwich is just another debate in waiting. For workers, the whole experience feels like carrying the weight of a lie while earning barely enough to cover rent or gas. The wages weren't great to start with, but when they're paired with constant confrontation, it becomes unbearable. Walkouts aren't dramatic protests, they're the most rational way to stop being a punching bag for a corporation's balance sheet. And the resentment only gets sharper when you add the pay itself into the mix. Because let's be honest, when your take-home adds up to a couple $100s a week, there isn't enough in the envelope to cushion the sting of customers yelling over a thin layer of turkey. That's where money and morale collide, pushing turnover even higher. The truth is, shrinking sandwiches didn't just sour customers, it drained the patience of the people making them. When every shift feels like being forced to defend corporate math, morale crumbles fast. Walking away starts to seem less like a choice and more like the only escape. So what is the takeaway for you? If your $10 sub looks thin, the worker handing it over isn't the one skimming it down. That decision comes from the top, and both you and they are stuck paying for it. Like and subscribe to help us keep the spotlight on the food industry's best-kept secrets.